The difficulty of independent thinking in students, why independent thinking is harder than it appears. Education is often described as a way to teach students how to think rather than simply what to think. While that goal sounds straightforward, developing independent thinking is one of the most difficult parts of learning. Memorizing information, following instructions, and repeating established methods are important skills. But they are not the same as forming original conclusions based on evidence and reasoning. Many students perform well academically, yet struggle to think independently when there's no obvious answer. What independent thinking actually means. It does not mean rejecting every opinion or refusing to learn from experts. Instead, it means evaluating information carefully, asking meaningful questions, and considering multiple perspectives, and reaching conclusions through reasoning rather than simply accepting the first explanation available. An independent thinker remains open to evidence, willing to question assumptions, including their own. That balance between curiosity and critical evaluation is what makes independent thinking a valuable academic skill. Why students naturally look for the correct answer? From the beginning, students are rewarded for finding the correct answer efficiently. Multiple choice tests, worksheets, quizzes, and standardized assessments usually have one expected solution. This creates a habit of searching for the answer the teacher wants, not a personal understanding. If students spend years reproducing answers, when do they learn to create their own? The transition is often more difficult than people expect. A situation that feels familiar. When teachers ask open-ended questions, the classroom sometimes becomes unusually quiet. Students often hesitate, trying to figure out the correct response rather than sharing their own reasoning. Once one student speaks, others frequently give similar answers. It is not necessarily because everyone thinks alike. It is because many students have learned that matching expectations often feels safer than presenting an original idea. Why fear of being wrong limits thinking? One of the biggest obstacles to independent thinking is the fear of making mistakes. Students often worry about giving an incorrect answer, appearing uninformed, or losing grades. As a result, many choose familiar ideas instead of exploring new ones. Independent thinking requires accepting uncertainty. Uncertainty can feel uncomfortable in environments where accuracy is constantly measured. Ironically, some of the best learning happens through mistakes, yet fear of mistakes prevents deeper ideas. The difference between memorization and reasoning. Memorization plays an important role in education. Students need foundational knowledge before solving complex problems. However, memorization alone cannot replace reasoning. A student may remember historical dates or scientific definitions without understanding why they matter. Independent thinking begins when students move beyond recalling information and start analyzing and applying what they know. Why technology has changed the learning process. Modern technology provides instant access to enormous amounts of information. That convenience has many advantages, but it also creates a challenge. When information is always immediately available, students may spend less time struggling with difficult questions themselves. The process of thinking through a problem often teaches more than simply reading the solution. Quick answers sometimes replace deep understanding. How social influence shapes student opinions. Students rarely form ideas in complete isolation. Friends, classmates, teachers, family members, and social media all influence how they think. The difficulty arises when students begin accepting popular opinions without examining the reasoning behind them. Independent thinking requires enough confidence to evaluate ideas based on evidence rather than popularity alone. Why curiosity is more important than confidence. Many people associate independent thinking with confidence, but curiosity may be even more important. Curious students ask why, how, and what if. They are willing to explore unfamiliar ideas without needing immediate certainty. This mindset encourages deeper investigation because the goal shifts from proving oneself right to understanding the topic more completely. The role of classroom discussion. Meaningful classroom discussions provide valuable opportunities for independent thinking. When students explain their reasoning, respond to different viewpoints, and defend conclusions with evidence, they strengthen skills. Discussion teaches students that reasonable people can disagree while still respecting evidence and logic. It also helps them recognize weaknesses in their own reasoning, making future thinking more careful and flexible. Why independent thinking requires time. Developing original ideas cannot always be rushed. Students need time to reflect, reconsider, and organize their thoughts before reaching conclusions. In busy academic environments filled with assignments, deadlines, and examinations, that time is often limited. This does not mean they lack the ability to think independently. It often means the educational environment leaves fewer opportunities. The importance of asking better questions. Strong, independent thinkers often ask better questions. They wonder why evidence supports a conclusion, whether another explanation is possible, or how different ideas connect. These questions push learning beyond memorization because they require reasoning rather than recall. The quality of a student's questions often reveals as much about their understanding as the answers they eventually give. Why independent thinking will become more valuable as artificial intelligence and digital technology make information easier to access. Independent thinking becomes even more valuable. Remembering facts will always matter, but evaluating evidence, recognizing flawed reasoning, solving unfamiliar problems, and making thoughtful judgments are skills technology cannot fully replace. Students who develop these abilities will be better prepared for careers and challenges that require adaptability. Final thoughts. The difficulty of independent thinking in students does not come from a lack of intelligence. It develops from years of learning environments that often reward correct answers, speed, and memorization. Independent thinking requires students to question assumptions, tolerate uncertainty, evaluate evidence carefully, and form conclusions. These skills take time to develop, but they become increasingly valuable in a world where information is abundant. The goal of education should not only be helping students find answers, it should also be helping them learn how to think for themselves. Thanks for watching.